Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody. I went down a rabbit hole today and most of last night about diet, preservatives, additives, and coloring in food, and about how that affects us. Are we poisoning our population? What does RFK plan to do about it? Shit like that. Largely, I think RFK is a bumbling idiot, but what do they say? A blind pig is right twice a day. So, he hit some stuff on the head with his getting rid of additives, but he's a vaccine denier and thinks AIDS was fabricated or some shit back in the day. So I don't have a ton of respect for RFK. But needless to say, I recognize a good idea when there's a good idea present. So to share my screen and get into a little bit, this is a live research session, all right? I haven't necessarily done thorough reading of a lot of these things. Just quick Google searches. We can dive in a little bit more to each topic. This is a learning session for me and for you, whoever the fuck's watching. Not that I give a fuck. But all right. So first question: how significant is dieting? Not dying. Dying is pretty significant. How significant is dieting when it comes to reducing cancer risk? I saw that it's about 30% that there I saw another little AI generated result that about 30 to 40% there's a reduction in the cancer rate about 30 to 40% among a population that eats healthier, that has less processed food, less red meat, things of these nature. They're typically deemed carcinogens, right? Um, one I We could read through this article real quick. Like I said, I haven't looked at it. This came out, was that Jan 31st of 2024? I should glance at it. Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Oh, and it has all these things. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to just stick on this damn website the entire time. Anyway, many studies have looked at the possibility that specific dietary components or nutrients are associated with increases or decreases in cancer risk. Studies of cancer cells in the laboratory of animal models have sometimes provided evidence that isolated compounds may be carcinogenic or have anti-cancer activity. But with few exceptions, studies of human populations have not yet shown definitively any dietary component that causes or protects against cancer. Sometimes the results of epidem, epidemia, epidemiologic epidemiologic. That added an extra syllable in there I wasn't ready for. Sometimes the results of epidemiologic studies that compare the diets of people with and without cancer have indicated that people with and without cancer differ in their intake of a particular dietary component. However, these results show only that the dietary component is associated with a change in cancer risk, not that the dietary component is responsible for cancer risk or causes the change in said risk. This is interesting. This is the causation versus what is it? Association versus causation fallacy. Are things associatively linked or like causally linked? How does this work? Just because you have a correlation between two things doesn't mean it's necessarily true, right? So, exercise has been shown to have enormous health benefits, one of which is cancer prevention. Um, it reduces like chronic inflammation. It helps you like metabolize things better. You producing like more amounts of testosterone, like all this good shit that you get from exercise. Exercise is awesome. But between populations that do have cancer and don't have cancer, while their diets may be different too, well, think about it. If somebody's eating healthier and is more health conscious, health centric, eating more organic, is at a therefore at a lower body weight, more like relatively better BMI, doesn't have like tons of fat on them. All of these factors, the human body is an incredibly intense, complex organism, and so doing a univariate study on something like this, I could imagine is damn near impossible. It's so difficult. Not that, but I'm sure it can be done. That being said, there are a lot of other factors that play into this, right? Because somebody has a worse diet, guess what? They're more likely to be not working out. They're more likely to be sedentary. They're more likely to consume media for 8 hours a day and not move when they get home. They're more likely to be poor. They're more likely to, which contributes to negative health outcomes, right? So when we have this associative link, it's difficult to say that this is causally linked as well. Another thing is with like a lot of the FDA approved color additives, which because of research done today, I'm totally against now. But because of color additives, what I've seen now is like there haven't been many human studies back in the 50s or whatever when like red number 3, red 40 and all these other different like coal and petroleum derivative synthetic colors were added to food. Um, they only did animal trials. It never got human testing. So that was interesting. Um, for example, study participant, yep, differ. When evidence emerges from an epidemiological study that a dietary, I'm so proud of myself, I just said that, study that a dietary component is associated with a reduced risk of cancer, a randomized trial may be done to test this possibility. Random assignment to dietary groups ensures that any differences between people who have high and low intakes of a nutrient are due to the nutrient itself rather than undetected differences. For ethical reasons, randomized studies are not generally done when evidence emerges that dietary components may be associated with an increased risk of cancer. This makes sense, right? Like you don't want to subject people to a study because if the study's right and it says like the hypothesis is red 40 causes cancer, it's therefore unethical to subject people to verify it. If I think that shooting you through the brain is like is gonna end your life, it's therefore unethical to test it because when I'm correct, the result is you're dead. Even if you can knowingly consent to it, it still makes it like unethical. Scientists have studied many activities, nutrients, and other dietary components for possible association with the cancer risk. It includes alcohol. Alcohol is a fucking huge one. Acrylamide is a chemical found in tobacco smoke in some foods. Can be used with certain vegetables such as potatoes when they're heated to high enough temperatures. Fun fact, kidney beans are deadly. I think it takes like 3 to 4 kidney beans um, to kill you when they're raw and not cooked enough. Studies in animal models have found that ac ac acrylamide, right? Acrylamide exposure increases the risk for several types of cancer. However, there's no consistent evidence that dietary acrylamide exposure is associated with risk of cancer in humans. Interesting. And then it links to this. I'll look at that momentarily. Antioxidants are chemicals that block the activity of other chemicals known as free radicals that may damage cells. Okay, so my friend Elijah put me on this the other day that free radicals actually cause issues within your cells that do damage to DNA and various structures inside the cell. DNA being the one of the largest ones because if your cell cannot reproduce properly, this is where cancer occurs, it's a failure in the cell replication process in that cell life cycle. Laboratory and animal research has shown that exogenous antioxidants can help prevent free radical damage associated with the development of cancer, but research in humans has not demonstrated convincingly that taking antioxidant supplements can reduce the risk of developing or dying from cancer. Studies have even shown an increased risk for some cancers. For more information, cool. Artificial sweeteners, I think this is a really bad one. Conducted safety of the 6 FDA-approved artificial sweeteners: saccharin, as aspartame, aspartame, asulfame, potassium, sucralose, is it neotame, and I've never heard of most of these. In laboratory animal studies, these sweeteners have generally not been found to cause cancer or otherwise adverse health effects. Most studies of the association between artificial sweetener and cancer in humans has shown no increased risk. Charred meat, cool. There's just tons of these, right? It helps the body use bones and teeth, possible associations of blood levels and takes. Okay, cool. So this is diet. I want to again make the distinction, right? Diet is important. Because Eating right and all, having a good healthy shit. Make sure your immune system's right. Make sure your body's functional. You got homeostasis going. You're in a good space. This contributes greatly to health outcomes. Preventative care is the best care. This is diet specific though. This does not deal with additives and preservatives. This is just everything you consume, not ultra high processed things that have the preservatives. Now, let's look at this, right? NIH, National Center for Biotechnology Information and the National Institute for Health. Let's go ahead and look. More than 2,500 chemical substances are intentionally added to foods to modify flavor, color, stability, texture, and cost. A lot of the reason we use synthetic additives and synthetic coloring is one for more appealing food, but also cost savings. It is strictly economic. The reason that we use coal and petroleum derivatives for additives in our food. Coal and petroleum, it just sounds crazy, doesn't it? Of course, these things undergo testing. Whether that's thorough enough or mistakes get made, that's a whole story in and of itself. But it sounds insane. Then you have, natural colors like beetroot or turmeric or I don't know if I guess you may be able to use mustard seed. There's a bunch of natural things that we can put in our food that aren't synthetic that potentially are that don't carry these carcinogenic issues. But the reason that we use synthetic is because it's easy to produce in mass. It's more stable. It doesn't expire. It's just a ton easier to use. Excuse me. Oh, cállate, bro. Motherfucker. Man, I'm playing Arc Dinos, right, man? I'm raising these little motherfuckers. I got babies out and shit. They gotta be fed every so often. So, I'm sitting here yapping, and the damn babies is, they starving to death. I gotta feed them more colors. You want purple? You want purple too? Yeah, you do. You do want purple too. I want purple too, man. Tell me, man, that's like some synesthesia shit. Synesthesia? Let me look up how to say that shit. Synesthesia. Is there a TH in there? Bro, don't make me hurt you. Pronunciation. Sinus. Okay. Oh, fuck you. I don't want Synesthesia. Synesthesia? Oh, it's a ST. It's a TA. It's a ST. Okay, interesting. Anyway, I'm done. I'm done now, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for that. Sorry for that break off there. Okay, anyway, some synesthesia shit, man. You out here tasting colors. But that being said, did you enter the food? The substances include food packaging material, processing aids, pesticide residues, and drugs given to animals. Yep, like the famous case of pesticide in ice cream. But it was like ill-advised to even be upset about it because these pesticides, the lethal dose for a human was like magnitudes lower than lethal doses for the sugar found in the ice cream. So you have to eat 100 pints of ice cream within a 2 hour period to die from the pesticides in it. But you would die 14 pints in from the sugar content of the ice creams because of their high sugar content. So some of these things it's almost not worth being upset about because like yes, it's like, oh my God, I'm eating a pesticide. But at the same time, there are other parts of the food that are like more dangerous and contribute. Now I won't necessarily say more negatively, but they contribute in a greater magnitude to health outcomes, right? A number of naturally occurring chemicals also found their way into the food. The most notable of these products of mold growth called myotoxins, which include aflatoxins. I don't know what those are. Association of these substances with carcinogenesis is described in Chapter 12, 13, 14 of the National Research Council in 1982. There's been no requirement to perform tests to determine carcinogenity for most substances added to food. Substances in this category include those generally recognized as safe. hundreds of flavoring agents, most additives approved before 1958 Food Additives Amendment to the Drug, Food, and Cosmetic Act. Yep. And additives used at levels considered low by the FDA except for suspected carcinogens. Furthermore, little is known about tumor promoting activity of the few food ingredients that have been tested for carcinogenity. How are these substances? Okay. This is long-term studies to evaluate the carcinogenity of direct additives, i.e., those intentionally added to food, may be required when the intended level of usage is high or when possible carcinogenity is suspected because of the nature or structure or biological properties of said additive. This same policy applies to indirect additives, which are like food packaging, food processing aids. However, these substances are generally present in foods at such low levels that carcinogenity test requirement would be imposed only if the indirect additive were suspected of being carcinogenic, or again, that high use because of its known chemical structure or biological activity, right? If you have something that mimics the structure of meth or mimics the structure of mustard gas or anthrax or and it's we're using it for food preservatives, this would be when they would be like, okay, well, it looks a lot like something that's like kind of deadly to humans. Let's do some further investigation, right? That's the when they're saying they're doing these things, I think they should probably do it all the time. We should know what we're putting in our bodies. Of the additives that have been tested, those shown to be carcinogenic when administered orally to laboratory animals are generally prohibited from use. However, there are some exceptions. For example, Congress passed a special bill, legislation preventing the FDA from restricting the use of artificial sweetener saccharin, even thought it has been shown to induce tumors in test animals. In addition, saccharin to other known carcinogens, vinyl chloride, acrylonitrile, may appear in very low levels in food as a result of their application in the manufacture of plastics used in food packaging materials. According to, adopted, reduce pesticides that can induce tumors, may contaminate foods through the direct application to crops, and then those crops are eaten by livestock and X, Y, and Z. Yep. Um, Certain unavoidable contaminants in foods, such as aflatoxin B1 contaminants, are generally permitted in foods only up to levels that the FDA considers to be the lowest level generally attainable without resulting in severe economic losses or adverse effects on the food supply. So I noticed this last night when I was doing some research is that there's this standard of minimal health risk, right? Minimal health risk implies that there is health risk, but there's a level to which some of this is acceptable. I think that when you feed such a large population and you have the commercialization in a capitalist economy of food, guess what? You lead to people saving money, cutting corners. You lead to people, uh, yeah. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought there. Capitalist economies. Feeding of such a large population. Croatia, Europe, a lot of the European countries that are, may have a larger emphasis in agrarian society and they're slower paced and they eat healthier organic foods and X, Y, and Z. Brother, these are, excuse me, when you have to feed the population of Houston but it's spread out over the area of a country, it's not comparable. When I have to feed 6 million people in Houston alone, and that's just in the state of Texas, that's one city in the state of Texas, and then you have 4 million people in all the country of Croatia, the levels of food, the commercialization, the industrialization, we're making Soylent Green out here to feed the masses, baby. To some degree, it has to be done, right? There's a level of industrialization, of commercialization of the food industry that, hey, quite frankly, We got a lot of fucking mouths to feed, and it sucks that that's the case, but um, I think that I think that some of this is to be expected. I don't think we're going to get rid of this. And unless every city, every town, everywhere has local farmers and a farmer's market where food is imported and people consistently go to these things and there's enough food to get around to everybody that desires fresh food, I don't think that these things are largely like in the current state without major investment in farmers, without a complete overhauling of the food industry, without having state-sponsored food. I don't know, like Soylent Green, I don't know how we promote healthier food options consistently, especially in areas like Houston, where certain areas are classified as food deserts and they don't have access to anything other than processed food? Um, these are difficult questions that to have answered. Um, but the you it's almost hard, it's very difficult to state this at the federal level at a massive level. Why? Because those potatoes in Idaho that are being grown aren't gonna make it down to Houston. Not with preservatives, not without additives. By the time those things are chopped up, hit the chopping block, they're probably already gone bad. So preservatives, synthetic synthetic additives in food may be appropriate in some cases. That's when we conduct research to make sure that they're safe, what levels are generally acceptable, but we also provide people healthy options to supplement their processed food intake. Because if it's only processed food, it's very bad. Um, yeah, but that being said, additives, preservatives, cool. Color additives? No, I don't need my food to look appealing. I need it to not give me cancer. Especially if it's not adding taste, right? Most of the studies have been conducted to identify mutagens in food have utilized bacteria, Salmonella, not even gonna try that one, as the target organism in the initial screening. Positive results in the bacteria assay generally lead to further testing in other systems. Substances that are negative upon initial screening are only rarely investigated further, since different mutagen mutagenicity test systems may give different results with a given test chemical. The use of salmonella assay alone in screening for mutagenicity could lead to failure to identify mutagens or carcinogens in foods. Therefore, it is important to use other genetic tests in addition to salmonella in the initial screening of foods and food components for mutagenic activity. Mutagens in both food. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I'm reading a lot of shit. Oh, research recommendations. Okay. Okay. It doesn't look like this provides a high level commentary on, but this seems to also directly conflict with what we've heard, right? Like that's directions for research. Where was it at? Where blatantly acrylamide and like saccharin here, these were mentioned as being carcinogenic, but this directly states otherwise. Saccharin is non carcinogen. Okay, okay. Listen, listen. High doses, high doses, high doses. I like this. I like this. I sure if I go read through this, okay, something can be carcinogenic at really high levels, but it doesn't make it like bad for you. Um, so let's say the government says, or FDA says 2,000 calorie intake, and they give you a Pepsi, right? They tell you you should be consuming no more than 2,000 calories. You know this is going to take up 500. Therefore, you need to cater your eating habits to adjust for snacks and whatever else. That way, you're staying within these limits. If you choose to exceed that nutritional label, if you choose to exceed your caloric intake and you're taking in high levels of saccharin, high levels of sugar, high levels of red meat, high levels of tobacco and alcohol use, yes, they will result in negative health outcomes because excess is not good. Your body requires stability, not excess, not too little. Doesn't want to be maximized, doesn't want to be minimized. It wants to be in the Goldilocks zone. So I don't like that they qualify saccharin as carcinogenic when it's only carcinogenic to rats in high doses. Concerns about particular. Okay, human and reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. However, mechanistic studies that examine how substance works in the body have shown that way saccharin causes cancer in rats does not apply in human, and in 2000 was removed. Interesting. Okay. So I'm inclined not to like this NIH article. It's valid. I think you can take away like some like why and when they test things. The bacteria was great. Significant presence of mutagen. See, and this is how you do research, right? You check, you get facts, what's commentary, what's not, and you take away the important things. I don't think that, yeah, I'm not in love with this article when it talks about what is and what isn't. Um, but that's just my opinion so far. I like this generally. We can look up immunosuppressions, obesity. People with obesity have increased risk for several types of cancer, including cancers of the breast in women, through menopause, colon, rectum, endometrium, lining of the uterus, esophagus, kidney, pancreas, and gallbladder cancers. Conversely, eating a healthy diet, being physically active, and keeping a healthy weight may help reduce the risk of certain cancers. These healthy behaviors are also important because they lessen the risk of illness such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. Excellent. Now, one thing that I will note, there's been a link between obesity and preservatives, color additives, and things like that. These synthetic additives, not again, I'm not talking diet specifically here yet. This is just the additives. There's been a link, there's an associative link between cancer and these things, these additives, these preservatives, these synthetics, right? Now, my general thinking is, and the reason that I'm not totally up in arms regarding preservatives, additives in food, largely because of my Houston example, I feel like some of them are necessary. And then I also feel um, that preservatives, additives, and even the color shit that may be linked to cancer, I don't feel like these are major contributors to cancer. I don't feel like if you have one person that eats only Doritos that don't have red 40 in them, and then the other person that eats Doritos that has red 40 in them, I think they both might develop cancer. Why? Because it's unhealthy that they're eating Doritos, right? And that aspect, right? The unbalanced diet, the overconsumption of carbs, sugar running throughout your body, this, a poor diet, is more highly correlated. And now I'm saying diet as a collective intake of food, not specifically preservatives, but the diet overall is a larger contributor than the preservatives are. So therefore, worrying about the preservatives as the sole contributor to cancer, I don't feel is necessarily productive. Now, that being said, do I want my food to cause me cancer? Absolutely not. We should take steps to minimize each step of the way. That way we can lead the healthiest lives possible. We want to, hey, I believe that you should remain healthy and work out for a couple reasons, right? To save, to save your own life, to save someone you care about's life, for a long life, longevity, baby, and to whoop some motherfucking ass. Those are your reasons to work out. You can't tell if you're working out for any other reason, you're wrong. Okay? Those are your reasons. You get to pick one or all of them. I don't, yeah, yeah, we should find ways to preserve ourselves as best we can. I don't know about, and this does deserve it's it's day in court, it's day in the laboratory, overemphasizing this when we have an obesity crisis, when people consume massive amounts of alcohol, when people aren't physically active, when people can't do push-ups, when we have the largest BMI of any goddamn country in the planet. Like that's not true. USA actually surprisingly doesn't have the highest average BMI. I think it's some island somewhere actually, where like 50% of the people are obese. Um, but that being said, um, I think they're larger contributors, right? Smoking, still like terrible for your lungs. Cool. Infectious agents, immunosuppression. Oh, and then like on top of that, right? Like certain diseases. So, what is the word I'm looking for? Viruses, diseases, they go into your body, they replicate by using your own cells. They're viruses are parasites. They use your cells to create proteins and replicate within you. By doing this, they damage your cells' DNA, and having a compromised immune system and being exposed to infectious diseases and epidemics, this weakens your immune system, which guess what? Is key in preventing cancer. Cancer is as my friend told me the other day, free radicals damage proteins, damage DNA, which affects the cell life cycle, affects cellular reproduction, and errors in cellular reproduction can form a little mass. Now, normally, these masses could be benign, and it's a failure of your body, of these cells that are dysfunctional, to undergo apoptosis, a sort of cellular destruction, self-destruct button when something's wrong with the cell. This ensures that bad information isn't continuously transmitted and replicated. But for whatever reason, there's an error in the process. It's not happening, and we see uncontrolled, unregulated cell growth that ultimately forms tumors, right? Um, Issues in the immune system absolutely will cause that. Guess what? Highly linked to obesity and poor diet and lack of movement. So again, just another, I know I'm really drilling it home. And I may be biased. I really do believe that there are larger contributors to cancer. Not to say that preservatives are the angels that I'm trying to make them out to be. They warrant investigation, and if they do or if they are carcinogenic, even at levels that are, let's say they are carcinogenic if you consume past your 2,000 daily calories. Let's say they are, then that's a problem because we can't expect people to act within their own self-interest and regulate these food intake because especially with a predatory food market like we have, I think we need to step in the way with some consumer protection laws and clear as day. I think in Europe I saw they clearly mark packages in reg text. This contains false additives likely linked to cancer. Inform people, make it a requirement. Just yeah, education is key. I agree. Last night we had a great, me and Elijah had a great discussion, and he made some phenomenal points. Educating and allowing people to, if they choose to get cancer, whoop de fucking do. People smoke nowadays, and that's totally their choice. But guess what? Having an informed base that is aware of what they're doing, I think is important. And then, of course, making things available to people. That may be in a poorer situation or things of that nature. Okay. Um, I think that's enough of that. How significantly do preservatives and additives contribute to cancer? According to current research, while some preservatives and additives, particularly those in high processed, ultra processed food, are linked to an increase in cancer, again, linked associatively, not causally. Um, The evidence isn't necessarily conclusive. The overall contribution to cancer risk is considered relatively small to other dietary factors like overall diet quality. It's okay, so this is kind of like I think my thinking. Now, this is AI generated. Should I go read this? Oh, son of a bitch. I just read that. Whoa, can I see your sources? Yes, MD Anderson. Another study linked to CNN. Fuck CNN. I want MD Anderson, baby. This is research, dog. This is how you do this shit. You checking sources. Processed meats are convenient, affordable, woven in the yep. Unfortunately, these processed meats are preserved. Cancer kind. Research shows that eating prostate and colorectal cancer. So how much is it? There's no way to completely eliminate your risk for cancer. However, the American Institute of Cancer Research recommends avoiding processed meats. That means eat as little as possible. They are considered carcinogens, and eating them increases your cancer risk. Okay. Evidence has been accumulated over the years that processed meats cause cancer, ham, hot dogs, beef jerky, a lot of that lunch meat shit. Try to stay away from it. Tips to avoid processed meat: read the label, be an educated buyer, look for organic labels. All that is super great. I want to find processed meats have been preserved by smoking or salting, curing, or adding additional chemical preservatives. They include deli meats, hot dogs, and bacon. Okay, I like the fact that they include salting. Overconsumption of salt may be linked to cancer. That may be valid as well. If I just bit the shit out my lip. Mm, relatively small. I want this part. This is the part that I want to read in a well-placed article somewhere. Yeah, I agree. But there are other ways that we can fight cancer. I think that educating people, like Michelle Obama's campaign of eat healthy, removing preservatives in food, but making healthier lunches at school that are more balanced, like that is a more prominent step in the right direction by getting Americans to eat healthy, consume better food and things of that nature, and having a healthier America with less cancer, with less negative outcomes than removing preservatives, in my opinion. Um, I I think the research would agree with me. I think so. Um, I really don't want to click on the CNN link, so I'm not going to. Cancer news? What the fuck does that mean? UK.org. I don't respect the UK personally, so I don't care. Why do we eat ultra? Yep. I don't care. Are they bad for us? Crisps and biscuits. All right, get the fuck out of here. I'm not reading this. You've demeaned yourself too much to me. All right. I do want to find more. Okay. Now, these next couple tabs are just going to be some shit that I found in my food today and I was curious about. Natamycin is an antifungal medication and preservative that is used to treat and prevent mold and yeast growth. Is an antifungal drug. Um, Carson. Considering there's not enough evidence to conclude. Animal studies, one study found that rats fed nanomycin for 2 years did not have significantly higher, but that's one study. Oh, it links it to it. Can I just have to click it? Oh, nanomycin. Uh-oh. Oh, what the fuck is this? Where is this even from? A shitty IPCS Inchum. What the fuck is this? I feel like I just got a virus clicking on this shit. Oh my God. I would have to look into that. I don't know what the fuck that is. Database limitations, poorly absorbed by the body, so risk of exposure is low. Okay, so if it's now there could be issues if it's low absorption, that's mean it's mostly being turned to waste. Whether that's being converted, processed by your liver or your kidneys, I don't know, but that could be potential damage, right? Because Tylenol is processed by your liver, and taking Tylenol on a consistent basis may cause liver damage. Um, because things aren't absorbed to the body, doesn't necessarily mean that they're positive for you, though. So. It's generally recognized as safe by the FDA, WHO, WHO, and EFSA. I'm not sure who these guys are. I'd have to look that up. Okay. Considering limitations in the available database of carcinogenity, no conclusions can be drawn. And I'll be honest, now it was genotoxicity in range of assays, both in vitro and in vivo. This is I believe embryonic and then in a living subject is the standard for in vitro and in vivo. Because that means in life, and I think that's I don't know what the fuck vitro means. I have to relook that up. It's so the thing is, I don't think the FDA is intentionally poisoning us. I think a lot of these things are generally held to be safe. Um, but I will say I think it's troubling that they're like, oh, we're still kind of up in the air about it. Why are we doing things? Why are we going and inputting a lot of these things that we don't know, that aren't necessarily proven when like natural methods may be better. But that being said, this is anti-fungus. This isn't color additives. I'm okay with this being in my food generally. Why? Because while this may give me cancer in 20, 30 years, mold, mold growth on my cheese might fuck me up now. And bacteria might fuck me up now. So so generally, even though I am somewhat critical, skeptical here, I think we're okay. On to the next. Is it steroid s- steroid lactylate is a chemical compound used as food additives and in cosmetics. I think same as like red number three, or is it red number one? I forget which one it was, but one of these back in the day was in food and cosmetics, and it was ass. Is a plant-based emulsifier that is non-toxic, biodegradable, and gluten-free. Ooh, that sounds fucking healthy, baby. Is a dough strengthener, stabilizer in baked goods, cereals, pastas, and it can be used to extend shelf life, improve dough volume, and reduce staling. Is not a known carcinogen, but it's possible to have an allergy to it. FDA approved. All right. Yeah, and you know what? Because I was just thinking, I was like, for these past couple ones, I have just been reading the AI summary, and that's not good research, but I'm being lazy. So I figured I'd actually click on this one. I'm sorry, you guys. Toxicity of Solome in Western uh Wistar rats fed diets containing 0, 1.25, 2.5, and 5% SSL for 1 year. Um, Oh, sodium sterol. 'Cause I was gonna say I don't know if they said what SSL was. Equivalent to mean daily intakes of 5, yep, milligram to kilogram day in males. Yep, respectively. SSL was well tolerated at these dietary levels, as evidenced by the absence of toxological toxologically significant changes in the general condition and appearance of the rats, survival, neurobehavioral endpoints, growth, feed and water intake, and I don't know why they didn't say food right here, but op ophthalmoscopic examinations, hematology and clinical chemistry parameters, urinalysis, or necroscopy, necroscopy. Nec necropsy. Necropsy. I don't feel like I don't know why I'm putting such an emphasis on the O there. Findings. The occurrence of uterine endometrial. Fuck, they're losing me here. Uterine in the uterus, endometrial stromal polyps. I don't know what that means. Polyps, okay, was the only finding of potential significance. Okay. Given the frequency of currents. God, forgive me. Oh, I was gonna say I'm only gonna read the abstract, but I guess that's all they published. Good on them. Oh, look, and then I can read the actual paper. Not going that far. This isn't my fucking thesis. I'm not writing about it. Not, I feel like that's enough. Another problem is I am only reading one source. I should probably read multiple sources on each one of these things. Um, But that's why the AI generation is helpful. It'll be like, we're kind of on the fence about it, and then you can investigate multiple sources. But if at this point it's kind of like we don't really like, there's no evidence to suggest this is bad. Yeah, phosphate is a Potent inhibitor of calcium phosphate crystal formation growth. Extracellular pyrophosphate is produced upon ATP hydrolysis by the enzyme oh, ecton nucleotide. Um, sorry, it's not ecton nucleotide, it's ectonucleotide. Pyrophosphatase and phosphodiesterase. Wait, shit. It's a natural inhibitor of mineralization in bones and other tissues. Okay, interesting. Is a byproduct of many intracellular biochemical reactions. If it's a byproduct, meaning it's cellular waste and is filtered out via, is it your lysosomes in your cell? I feel like is the cleaner upper. Let's fact check me. I'm a fucking biology G though. Watch this. Lysosomes. Watch this. Watch this. They contain digestive enzymes responsible for breaking down waste material. Fuck, I do this, my bro. I'm telling you, in my past life, I could have been a doctor. I really like I can do everything. I'm a fucking G. Phosphate production. God, I'm so good. I'm so good. But this is concerning. A natural inhibitor of mineralization. Okay. Pyrophosphate is a byproduct. Okay. Is also produced when cells release ATP because this is adenosine triphosphate. Energy for the cells, right? I think there's different ways that your body produces ATP. One, of course, is the powerhouse of the cell in the mitochondria when you have it's like the electron transport chain or some shit like that and produces 36 plus 2 ATP. Oh, you know what? Let's check that too. Let's look at electron transport chain. I just want to be right today. It feels good being right, baby. Series of proteins molecules that transfer electrons from in the mitochondria during cellular respiration. Oh, watch this. Watch this. No, 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 watch this. ATP produced. If it's 36, okay, close. All right, close. I couldn't be I couldn't be that right. If I was that right, I was gonna have to start taking niggas' jobs. Okay, I'm too good. I'm too fucking good. I tell you, boy, I know this shit. Where is it found? In bones, where it prevents over mineralization of leucine. In extracellular fluids, where it inhibits mineralization. Okay, wait a minute. I assumed when it said, okay, when I heard inhibitor of mineralization, my initial idea was it prevented ossification or like bone growth. But what it sounds like is it prevents excessive mineralization. It prevents like large crystals from forming, which is like a net positive. When I first read this, I thought it was going to be fucking awful. But I don't think you want large crystals and minerals floating through your blood. I don't know how big they are relative to cells, but that's like a potential clotting factor, I would imagine. Don't know. No idea. Initial thoughts. Can definitely check me on that. That was a baseless claim I just made. But my hypothesis nonetheless. That's what I would think. Now, if I get proven wrong of that, you know but that's how I initially interpret it. That's a concern that comes to my mind upon my initial hearing that, right? Where it prevents overmineralization. This isn't preventing bone growth, or the ossification, right? Um, Let me look that up. I don't think, okay, ossification is bone growth. I don't think it particularly means the overgrowth of bone. I think it, when I tell you a nigga's not missing, I'm the smartest motherfucker you'll ever run into, baby. Okay, let me actually read something. I'm too busy fucking jacking off over here to to get my point across. Is a potent inhibitor of calcium phosphate crystal formation and growth. Extracellular pyrophosphate is produced upon AT. I just read that shit. What the fuck am I doing? Sorry. I got ADHD, vascular tissue mineralization. I'm hitting some barriers with my reading here. This is getting yeah, like we're losing Xavier here. Yeah, somebody with a higher degree in medicine tell me what the fuck all this means. All right, no, let's actually read it though. Vascular calcification is associated with psychological aging, genetic diseases such as Hutchinson-Gilford progeria or progeria? I think it's progeria syndrome and generalized arterial calcification of infancy, and various pathological conditions such as chronic kidney disease and diabetes. Vascular calcification is characterized by the deposition of calcium phosphate crystals in the aortic media called Monckersberg medial sclerosis. Fuck, man, why y'all niggas gotta talk in Latin and or intima related atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis. Usually a hydro man, fuck me. They just can't make it easy on a brother. Like at all. The main component of bone. Okay, they explained it. All right. Vascular calcification reduces aortic and arterial compliance and elastance, hampering cardiovascular system function. It is linked to poor clinical outcomes and contributes to cardiovascular morbidity and mortality because tissue mineralization may occur at normal concentrations of calcium and phosphate. Wait, because tissue's mineralization may occur at normal levels of calcium and phosphate, regulatory mechanisms exist to limit this process to bone and cartilage. Several en endogenous and I always androgynous. Oh no, it's androgynous, not endogenous. Endo meaning outside of. Wait, no. Hold on. Before you fucking dicks correct me, all right? I've been right up until this point. Let me think. Is endo? I can't remember the other prefix. Is endo inside of? Endo. I'm trying to think of a word that I know with endo. Because X, like X, okay. Exterior, EXT is of course exterior. Endo would be inside of. Check myself. Let's check it, baby. Check it. Watch this. I'm right. Yeah, internal cause or origin. Okay. All right. I stumbled initially, but I logicked my way. All right. I'm there. I'm with you. All right. I stumbled. So hey, I tri mm. You gonna catch a nigga tripping, but I ain't never gonna fall on my face. I promise you that. Several and fuck. And I can't even say the word now. Inhibitors of vascular calcification have been identified, including the mate. Man, get the fuck out of here. Yep, read that. Pyrophosphate is degraded to phosphate by tissue nonspecific alkali promoting promote whoa is degraded to phosphate promoting calcification. Another enzyme, ectonucleoside triphosphate di diphosphohydrolase can hydrolyze ATP and ADP to phosphate, reducing the availability of ATP for pyrophosphate production and likely inducing calcification. Okay, I think I'm a bit confused by this paragraph. It's a potent inhibitor of calcium phosphate crystal formation and growth. Cool. And at normal levels, that means just body at homeostasis, calcium and and phosphides exist at levels that will crystallize. So this prevents it. It's an inhibitor. But pyrophosphate is then degraded to phosphate by tissue nonspecific alkali phosphatase, promoting calcification. Is calcification in this sense different from calcium crystal formation? Because it says it inhibits crystal formation, but it promotes calcification. Because I think the issue is, yeah, I don't, I may not know, I don't think I know the difference between calcification and is a process where calcium builds up in the body's tissue, causing them to harden. It can be abnormal. I would have to read a lot more into calcification actually. I don't, yeah. Vascular tissue mineralization occurs. So let's do tissue mineralization versus calcification. Extracellular matrix mineralization is the essential physiologic process in the skeletal dental tissues. On the other hand, soft tissue mineralization, ectopic calcification associated with genetic and chronic metabolic diseases may present okay. Tissue mineralization is different from calcification. Ah, I see. Calcification deals specifically with bones and wait, no, it doesn't deal with bones. Sorry, I just read that. It deals with calcium hardening, and then the other one is, but no, it said they both deal with tissue. We're opening it back up, bitches, because apparently I'm still not grasping something here, which can be considered a normal process of depositing minerals within structured tissue bone matrix like bone, whereas calcification can encompass both normal mineralization and abnormal. Okay, calcification isn't necessarily a bad thing. It inhibits things outside of the extracellularly from developing, and it promotes calcification. I feel like the fact that they're saying promotes calcification implies that it's not in an abnormal manner. I'm gonna send this to my mom. I need knowledge. Vascular tissue mineralization occurs when the synthesis of vascular calcification inhibitors is impaired. Okay. Tissue mineralization occurs when the synthesis of calcification inhibitors is impaired. So normally we would prevent tissue mineralization from occurring via calcification inhibitors, but for whatever reason, the creation of calcification inhibitors is impaired, therefore leading to tissue mineralization. When the formation of calcium phosphate crystals enhanced, yep. We read a whole bunch. Okay, I'm sold on pyrophosphate. Also known as sodium hydro is a sodium salt of bisulfate anion with the molecular formula. Yep. Sodium bisulfate is an acidic salt formed by partial neutralization of sulfuric acid by an equivalent of sodium base, typically in the form of either sodium hydroxide or sodium chloride, which is your typical salt. Is an acid salt formed by the, okay. And of course we gotta go carcinogen. I think this is the last one, guys. No, it's not classified by the National Toxic. Yep. There's inadequate. Yeah. Preservatives and cancer risk. I don't give a fuck. How significantly do additives contribute to cancer? According to research, a significant link exists between, again, like I said, guys, I think that link is mostly due to other factors that are associated with poor diet, such as being poor, being overweight, being inactive, being in moldy, non-great living standards in older buildings with asbestos, with mold, with bugs that carry diseases, with I lived like that. I saw how fucking the other half lives. All right. I've seen life across the tracks. And my old roommate, Nick, is probably gonna fucking die in the next 5 years because he lives like shit. Um, I used to live with a goddamn meth head with roaches crawling on me when I slept. I I've seen it. That's not a healthy environment, and I guarantee you, ultra processed foods is the least of his fucking concerns. Just saying. But Again, that link exists and it exists for a reason. It exists to be explored. And I think that we can have, we can do things to mitigate our exposure to these things, like eating organic. And then making organic solutions available to poor populations. Yeah. Cool. Exact contribution needs to be studied more. I believe it. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to study, I'd imagine. Oh, cigarettes, before I get into anything else. Cigarettes, despite their harmful effects due to a combination of factors, widespread addiction to nicotine is too deeply rooted, can't get rid of it. The significant economic impact on the tobacco industry and political changes, it's not feasible to ban them at this point. So, not to mention prohibition, we saw how that worked for alcohol. Limiting nicotine, prohibiting nicotine would likely do the same thing. It's difficult to it's better to regulate something and try to make consumers aware so that they can practice these things that they're gonna do anyway in a safe light versus prohibiting them where it leads to shoddy manufacturing, non-supervised packaging of products. We don't know what's getting put in our cigarettes. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know if the booze that we got is made like is actually, 75% fucking ethanol and, and like you're just gonna be shit-faced. Um, Regulation instead of prohibition. I think that's why the FDA doesn't necessarily, it's not a business to make money. I don't think they necessarily prey on people's addictions to ultra sweet foods or the deceptive packaging or the, whatever. I think we could do things to dissuade manufacturers from trying to say like, look at my great product, get addicted to it, buy me, and I'll give you a small boost of dopamine because I'm so sweet and tasty. I think doing things like that, like making food healthier overall because of the caloric content, more so than preservatives, was probably more appropriate. But just interesting idea why cigarettes are still legal if they're bad for you. Why are preservatives in our food if they're bad for us? It just goes to show like there are other aspects, especially the economic impact when it comes to preservatives, when it comes to the sustainability of food and shipping it and packaging it over long distances. And is why like I said, America presents a unique problem with how large we are and how we have to move food to various areas that don't produce their own. Large cities have massive populations and largely aren't agrarian. So guess what? A lot of food gets pumped in. And guess what? We can't it's not feasible to have organic farmers markets, you know, that feed an entire city. I'm sorry, it's not. So we largely have processed food, as shitty as that is. And I agree it is shitty. This is about the trans debate. Don't want to fucking bring that up. How much time do I have left? I've been yapping for a fucking minute now, dude. We're still going. All right. I don't know how long I've been here, guys. Nitrates and so I'm actually curious about nitrates and nitrites. The thing is, let me see, vasodilators. What are they made of? I think they're a type of nitrate. Nitroglycerin, carcinogen. Oh, whatever. Anti-proliferative. It can be used to treat cancer. Whatever. Increase blood flow to tumors. Okay. Sure. I don't believe it. Anyway, I just wanted to see if they caused cancer. It didn't look like they did, so I'm off that. I don't care. I would not recommend taking vasodilators and hitting poppers to treat your cancer. Nitrates and nitrites occur naturally in water and soil. They also used as food additives, preservatives, and processed meats that could play a role in carcinogenity of the processed meat. The objective was to investigate the relationship between the nitrate and nitrite intakes of natural food, water, and food additive sources and cancer risk in a large prospective cohort with detailed dietary assessment. Overall, I'm assuming there's a comma here. 101,000 adults from French Nutria-Net Santé cohort in 2009, ongoing median follow-up 7.6 years was included. Nitrates, nitrites exposure and evaluated was evaluated using repeated 24-hour dietary records linked to a comprehensive composition database and accounting for commercial names, brands, and of industrial products. Associations with cancer risk were assessed using a multi-adjusted Cox hazard models. So that's important that they assessed a person's likelihood to develop cancer before the study took place. Because if somebody already has some shit in their family, but they're totally healthy, or there were, the data could skew biasly because I was already going to develop cancer. So me intaking a bunch of nitrates and nitrites didn't fucking matter anyway. Results in total. 3,301 incident cancer cases were diagnosed compared with were diagnosed. Okay, stop. Compared with non-consumers, high consumers of food additives, nitrates, had a higher risk of breast cancer hazard ratio equal to 1.24. So for every one person, so for every four people that compared with non-consumers, high consumers. So for every non-consumer, high consumers at a ratio of 4 to 5. For every four non-consumers, five consumers had cancer. So that would mean that the non-consumer in this case, assuming that all of these were high consumers, would be about 12,000. It occurred at a rate of 0.24. More specifically, for potassium nitrate, high consumers of food additives had higher prostate cancer risk at a much higher, like 1.5 or 1.6 persons per non-consumer. That's a little bit higher. All those similar HRs, hazard ratios were observed for colorectal cancer for additive nitrates. No association was detected, maybe due to likely statistical power for this. No association was observed for natural sources. Food additives were positively associated with breast cancer, prostate cancer, respectively, although these results need confirmation on another large-scale prospective studies. I I want to know a little bit more about a hazard ratio. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. Okay. And that was I should have said this out loud. Yeah. Because it is a ratio. So 24%, which is about 25, would be about a one fourth, which 0.25 is one fourth of one. Yeah. So that tracks. 24% makes sense. Cool. Not mad at it. Guys, that's it. That's it. That's my deep dive into food. Final synopsis, final thoughts. Oops, I'm dying. Final thoughts. Color additives need to go. They introduce unnecessary risk to the population and don't add anything to our food other than an appealing look, which largely I'm not for. Not a cosmetic, not an aesthetic kind of guy. So if it doesn't serve a function, get it the fuck out of here. In terms of preservatives, I think largely preservatives are okay. I didn't see anything that was linked, just in the food that specifically that I consumed today. I didn't see any linkages to carcinogens, especially in the preservatives. Colors. Unnecessary colors that even have a corollary effect to cancer probably aren't appropriate. So I will side with FDR in saying that these things need to get removed. If he starts to fucking pull vaccines off the shelves, though, I'll be the first motherfucker to call him out on his bullshit because he is full of bullshit. A fucking hair. Let me stop myself because Not all victims of the drug habit are fucking just wretched human beings. That is okay. I was gonna use it to demean his character, but I didn't want to demean. I don't mean to shit on everybody. He's just a piece of shit. He's a dumb piece of shit at that. Um, yeah, don't want to shit on the victims of the drug habit. You're they're dumb pieces of shit. I'm a double down. They're dumb pieces of shit too for using heroin. But I understand there's circumstances and shit. I say, hey, I don't like your choices, but I understand. Okay. But that being said, colors gotta go. Preservatives are okay. Um, if you don't want to get cancer, live a healthier life. The way to do that, while we can improve our intake of, of preservatives, of these things, what's gonna help you the most isn't advocating for this. It's gonna be working out. It's gonna be dieting. It's gonna be being active. It's gonna be watching your caloric intake. It's gonna make sure you're getting enough sun. It's gonna be make sure you put on sunblock. It's making sure you don't drink in excess and that you don't smoke and that you there are way more things that contribute to cancer than these. Even red 40, even the color additives. I think I think that preservatives are largely corollary and not causally linked to cancer. My opinion, if you have studies or anything that suggest otherwise, please let me know. I'd be happy to read them, be happy to look through them. This was just a quick thing I got going on. This was just a quick night, quick little study sesh. Um, for my own, well-being. Um, let me know if you guys agree, disagree. Let me know if I did a good job. Let me know if I need, if I need to go get my doctor's degree, but like in medicine this time. That way because obviously engineering just isn't for me. Like, I should go be a damn doctor. I'm a natural. It runs in the family, goddamn it. But that being said, you guys take it easy. Have a blessed one and unblur. Peace.